Okay, and we are recording, and I'm Charlie Johnstone. I want to welcome everybody to this Zoom meeting, our virtual demo center. First of all, can everybody hear as best they can? I want to make sure everything's okay with that. Can everyone see the captions at the bottom? Yeah, okay. I want to recognize Cindy Thompson from ACS as our caption writer. Thank you, Cindy. And I also want to recognize Caption Call for underwriting the cost of captioning. Questions from the participants can be addressed live and later from the saved chat file. This will be a combination of participants raising their hand and questions submitted through the chat feature or through the virtual demo center website, which Lauren will briefly talk about in the questions and suggestions section. It's real important that you fill out the evaluation and email it to Barb Rice, and those instructions and the evaluation were included in it's at the bottom of the Zoom invitation. So I'd like to introduce Lauren. He's going to start us off here. Take it away, Lauren.
He's muted.
Thank you. Forgot about that. I always forget to unmute. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and in a minute. Here we go. All right. I'll try to move it to a place where you can see it. That I'm going to talk about in a second. Okay, so what I want to mention for those who are not familiar with this is that we normally have a live demo center once a month that Charlie manages. And we have a number of us volunteering that are helping Charlie out to do that. But of course, with COVID, we've had to shut that down. So we have a virtual demo center, which allows people to see which products we have in our assistive listening device demonstration center. You can see why we call it the demo center. And the demo center is intended for the purpose of opening it to the public, letting people come in to see it and look at the various products that we have there for them to try out and see if it helps them. And if they like it, then we can, suggest a few, very many places where they can go to buy these products. But what I wanted to do first was to show you how to get to the demo center. So that's what I will do now. You go to our chapter website, hearinglossrochester.org. And when you get there, by the way, can everybody see this okay? Is it large enough? Things always take a little while when we're doing this through Zoom. So that's our chapter website. And the way you get to the demo center, by the way, there are also chapter videos that you can click on to see prior presentation, presentation and demo center sessions that we have recorded. But you scroll down on that homepage until you see the VDC. You can click on that or on that link, either one, and it'll take you to the VDC. And the first time you get here, I suggest that you go through, sort of follow the links here and click through. We have the first page, the home page, is for people to understand what the demo center is about a little bit better. And the next page, where it says click here to continue, takes you to an introduction where we suggest that, if you haven't had your hearing tested, please do that. And if you're looking for assistive devices, a good place to start is with the manufacturer of your hearing aids or cochlear implants, if you are aware of either of those types of products. And if you're not either a hearing aid wearer or a cochlear implant user, then we suggest you take a look at some of the devices that we have in our virtual demo center. When you come back, if you come back to this page again, you can just, you know where you want to go, you can just click on the menu. If it's not open, you'll see a little hamburger symbol up on the left that you can click to open up the menu. So I'm going to click and take you to that page. And here is sort of an overview of what we have here in the virtual demo center. This, if you click on any of these images, it'll take you to the place that's described below. So demo center devices. Here is again a reference to the hearing aid and the CI assistive accessories from manufacturers. And we also have some smartphone and tablet apps, not the apps necessarily here, but we have links to those apps so that you can see which ones that we have tried. We don't recommend any necessarily, as most of you may know that HLAA doesn't recommend products or sell products or services for that matter. This is all free and open to the public. We also have a learning center that will show a few videos, including a link to some that Eric has created, tips on how to hear better. Hearing friendly venues, which mainly relates to the Rochester, New York area, but by looking at it, it might give you some ideas of where to look in your area and how to find places. And then purchasing sources, we have a couple mentioned, but there are very many sources on the web. And finally, we have a link back to our Rochester chapter website. So let's look quickly at demo center devices, and I just want to make one or two comments here. And that what we've done, we can't buy a lot. We don't have a budget to buy a huge number of them. And if we could buy a huge number, we probably wouldn't have enough people to manage them. So what we've done is we've selected some representative products in various categories. And these are what people will find when they come into the demo center. So alerting devices, if people have trouble hearing their phones or the alarm clock in the morning or the doorbell ringing. Again, just click on any one of these and it takes you directly to either that manufacturer's website for detailed information, or in some cases where there is no manufacturer's website, it takes you to a reseller's website. So here is, now they must have changed something. They haven't found that particular product, so you can click on products and see all the different things that they offer. And then if you click on those links, you will find out information about those products. Another category is hearing on the phone. Phone amplifiers and also amplified phones are available in our demo center. Again, clicking on a link will take you to that manufacturer's website and you can see other of their products. This manufacturer, in fact, has many different phones available. And also captioning when you're on the phone and you have difficulty hearing. A caption phone, here are a couple examples, one from Caption Call and one from CapTel. Again, click on those images and you'll find out probably all you need to know about them. Then the general category of personal listening and accessories. For instance, Pocket Talker, which maybe many of you are familiar with. I'm just going to click on that one to show you that when you go to the Williams Sound website, I'm sorry about the delay. Zoom is just slowing us down a bit. It'll give you information about that. Now they say they're temporarily out of stock, but if you go to one of the resellers, you'll most likely find it. And if you go down a little deeper, you'll see that they have detailed description of it as far as connectivity, the batteries that you use, many other things. They also have videos. And this I find to be very helpful in understanding what this product does. Some of the other products also have videos and some don't. So that's sort of the very quick tour. I also had wanted to talk about one product. It's not a product most likely that any of us will buy, but you may be interested in your chapter. So let me find that. Does everybody see this floating menu that I have on my screen? It sort of gets in the way. Maybe you don't see it, but I have to keep pausing to move it around so I can get to the things I want to show you.
No, we're not, I'm not seeing that, Lauren, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, okay. So the product that I want to tell you about today is called the Where and Here Express Hearing Check Kiosk. Where and Here is a product that we have two of their products in our demo center, and here are two of them. One is the Be Here Now headset, and the other is the Be Here Access headset. This one also has a telecoil. These are, in my opinion, breakthrough products in the assistive listening device category because they not only amplify sound and are able to let me restate that, they amplify sound, but they also have an associated app that will give you a hearing check or a hearing test. It's not nearly as detailed as one you would get from an audiologist, so it's not really a substitute for that. But for people who have mild or moderate hearing loss, a device like this might be helpful because that app will give you the hearing test and then download the results of that hearing test into the headset amplifier so that you can then use that amplifier independently and you can hear it quite well. I use it, we have two of them. I have them here and I use them often. I've given myself tests with it. I've given other people tests, hearing tests with these. And many of the people, as long as they don't have very severe or profound hearing loss, can benefit from these because the reason it's limited to mild and moderate to the upper level of severe is that the upper level on the amplification, I think, is 60 decibels. So anyway, with that said, I wanted to tell you about that because the Express Hearing Check Kiosk is a new product that they've recently introduced, and it uses exactly the same technology that's used in those two products. This is great, I think, because it's going to help us to reach that large number of hard of hearing people who aren't doing anything about their hearing loss. So we'll have this in our demo center in the future when we open. It allows people to walk up to it and independently take a test. They pick up the headphones and they touch the screen to start. It explains to them that tones will be played in their left ear and then in their right ear to determine the hearing threshold and the comfortable hearing level. And where this differs from just a simple hearing test is that after they finish that test, the device will play back audio to them with the results of the hearing test applied, as well as without those results, so that people can see immediately within 5 or 10 minutes just how much they could benefit from a product like either of those two I showed you. And I think what it's really going to do is drive a lot of people to audiologists because the people who are still in denial are going to say, good grief, I didn't realize I could hear so much better. I'm going to see an audiologist and have a further hearing test, have a real hearing test. So that's all I wanted to say. I think I used up my allotment. So we want to give Eric a chance to talk as well. If you have questions later, please, leave a message on chat or just raise your hand and we'll.
Actually, Lauren, you're a little ahead, so we're fine. If anybody has questions about your segment, we can take those now.
Okay.
Just raise your hand if everybody has any questions.
And I apologize for talking too fast. I was just trying to avoid cutting Eric off. Yeah, but we see this as a great addition to our demo center. And if you go to their website, Where and Here, you will also be able to get some more information on it. It tells you how it works. And here is just an example of what the result of the test looks like. So left ear and right ear. People can see that visually. I think for many people who have never thought about hearing problems before, they probably won't know what that means. But I'll tell you what, when the audio is played back with their uh, um, audio chart incorporated, that's going to be a real eye opener for them. And in the demo center, we talk and we talk and we talk to people about how important that is. But, you know, words alone aren't enough many times. It took me almost, well, between 7 and 10 years after I had a problem to actually do something about it.
Hey, Lauren, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
This is Dan speaking. If you do a hearing test and you know, it tells you you have a hearing loss, is there a way of printing off the audiogram or whatever it may say?
What it does when the hearing test is finished, it'll play back the audio just straight, you know, without any compensation. And then it'll play the audio back with that audiogram applied so they can understand the difference between the two. Was that your question?
No, not really. Does it send me an email or anything like a report or
Yes.
something that I can key on to?
Yes, I know that. I'm not sure they have implemented that feature yet, but they talk about it, that you can enter your email address and they'll send you your audiogram. And I think they were also offering to connect you with audiologists, but I think they may be backing off of that a bit. Sort of a hard thing to do on a nationwide basis.
Okay, thank you.
Well, if we can move on to the next segment, Eric, if you want to unmute and get yourself set up. Lauren, you're going to have to stop sharing, so
Yep.
Eric can take over.
There we go.
There we go. It's good to see everybody's face again. Hi, I'm Eric Matson, and I'm on the tech committee of the Rochester chapter of the HLAA, and I'm real pleased to be here this morning. Let's see here. Everybody see that?
Looks good, Eric.
Okay. Move my thing out of the way here. There we go. Today's topic, from my perspective, is the value of external microphones. People say, well, I've got hearing aids, but why do I need microphones? Well, the microphones that are built into your hearing aids are only good for a limited distance, 6 to 8 feet usually. So external mics can kick in. I like them because I also sit on the Education and Advocacy Committee. And when I start putting out my apparatus, people say, what's that? I know Nancy did. And it gives me a chance to say, well, you know, I'm one of the 40 million Americans that have hearing loss, and this apparatus helps me communicate a lot better. So it's a chance to make people aware of things. But aside from that, from a practical standpoint, as somebody with hearing loss, you have any problem in noisy spaces? An external mic can help by emphasizing the voices close to you and diminishing the background noise. How about restaurants and dining rooms? They fit into that category. Even at home in the dining room, if you got 3, 4 people around the table, it helps to have an external mic sitting there. Multiple conversations can be a real challenge. By setting the external mic closest to the conversation you want to hear, it minimizes the other conversations, and it can be a big help. Automotive road noise. I use this all the.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
We seem to be getting some background sound from you. You're upstairs alone, right?
I'm upstairs alone. My wife is on Zoom downstairs, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I use automotive road noise as a challenge. A lot of people turn off or remove their hearing aid closest to the road. I've got a automotive app on my phone that does the same thing. But an external mic attached to the person you want to hear or set near the radio can make an amazing difference. Doctor's appointments. You know, a lot of these doctors now, they like to look at their computer and wear a mask and all of which makes your life miserable. But by putting a microphone close to the doc or the admissions people at some of these hospitals makes a world of difference in hearing them. TV voices or accents. If I don't want to bother with my TV connector, I just set a microphone next to the TV speaker and it brings the sound right close to my ears. Now, I have a high frequency loss. And unfortunately, all my grandkids have high frequency voices. So external mic can, again, bring that sound close into your ears and make comprehension a lot better. Word recognition problems. My scores are in the tank. But again, people look at you and speak clearly, and then you have an external mic to bring the sound closer to your ear. It's a big help. Finally, and the one that everybody's sensitive to these days is COVID-19. I call it mask mumbling. People wearing masks it can really complicate the question of understanding them. An N95 mask cuts audio volume in half, so you want to think about that. Now, the obvious first thing that people use is, or that I use, is something called a Rogers Select. I have phonic hearing aids, but all the major makers make some sort of external mic that's proprietary. This particular one is dynamite. It's super compact, it's wireless, rechargeable, has 6 different selectable microphones. The output goes directly to the hearing aid. If I want, I can set my phone to have break-in priority. I can adjust the mix of what I'm hearing between the external mic and the hearing aid mics. It's just fantastic, really. Great clarity and boost. Unfortunately, there's a dirty end to every stick. These tend to run in the low 4 figures for cost. That puts most people off because, well, they're proprietary and there's a lot of money been put into miniaturization. The other downside that I've run across is that it's easy to forget and lose them on a restaurant table or whatever. Don't ask me how I know that's a heartbreaker. I've been there and done that. The knee-jerk solution, if you don't want to spend that kind of money, is the ubiquitous pocket talker. these are available even on eBay. You can find them. People selling them off of estates and what have you. Use an earphone or a neck loop or whatever you like. Plugs into the pocket talker. You set the talker in the middle of the table. Works great. It's the least expensive option, about 160 bucks. But it's got a wire out to the device that you're listening with. So that can get in the way and get tangled up, particularly in a restaurant or dining room situation. And the mic that comes with these is typically short range. May not be sensitive enough for you. Well, given the ridiculous and the sublime, I put the question out to some of the folks that expressed interest in these things. They said, what are the features you'd really like to see? And I'll see if I can cobble something up. Well, they said they wanted something that was as inexpensive as possible, something that's not tied to Phonak or Oticon or one of the brands, something that'll serve all hard of hearing users. They may or may not have hearing aids, they may or may not have T-coils, so it's got to be versatile. Ideally, it's wireless so that you don't get all tangled up in it. Ideally, it's rechargeable so you don't have to carry batteries around. Make it as small and compact as possible. Of course, to save money, it's going to be bigger than the proprietary stuff, but make it as small as you can. And it would be nice if you made it usable without somebody having a PhD in engineering. I know Lauren's got one, but not everybody does. Here we go. So the knee-jerk reaction again of most people says, well, why don't you try something that's Bluetooth? That's wireless. So here I took a standard pocket talker and I used a Bluetooth transmitter. And then over here I took a Bluetooth receiver and put it into an earphone or whatever, and neck loop possibly. And it worked pretty well. It's wireless, the Bluetooth and the pocket talker were rechargeable. Everything's available from Amazon. It's not tied to any one hearing aid maker. Serves everybody with or without hearing aids or with or without T-coils. And you can assemble one for a little bit under $250. Again, there's the downside. Bluetooth historically has had latency problems, time delay between what the microphone hears and what your hearing device reports. I went through 3 different transmitters and receivers, all of which advertised low latency, but only one of them actually had it. So that can be a little frustrating. The other downside is that Bluetooth tends to be power thirsty. So to resolve that, I here you see an external battery, here you see an external battery. These are the type of batteries you carry to recharge your phone in emergencies. But they serve this pop pretty well. Unfortunately, they add bulk and cost to the assembly. And it's fun for engineers and geeks. Lauren would love this alternative. But a lot of other people said, hey, wait a minute, can you simplify it? So I went back and said, okay, how can I make this as simple as possible for folks? Well, on Amazon, I noticed I could get a standard wireless karaoke microphone that comes with a standard karaoke receiver, radio frequency, and I put this into a ubiquitous pocket talker with standard earpieces and a neck loop. Works great. happily. Meets almost all of the challenges on people's wish list. You can assemble one for under $180, or if you get lucky and like to shop eBay, you can find some of the major components for less on eBay. It's quite compact receiver that you see here, and this is a small karaoke mic, bigger perhaps than people like, but there's some wisdom behind that. The earpieces can get bulky depending on what you want. If you're using earphones, the earphones don't get super small. Neck loops, you hardly see them at all. So anything in between will work. The microphone favors having a carrying case, even though it's small. However, it's very sensitive, which I have found in a lot of applications is important, and it's not easy to forget and lose on the table. It's a bit more obvious. Finally, the one I like and actually use on a lot of occasions is the same arrangement, the karaoke type approach, but usually a neck loop in place of an earphone or headphone. You can see here it's not all that big. Here you see it in comparison to a dollar bill. This attaches to your belt or goes into a pocket. The neck loop can actually be worn under a sweater if you want, so that people don't see it. The only thing that's really visible is the microphone sitting in the table. It's the same as the previous system. Plus, if you're using a neck loop, most hearing aid setups, it'll mute the hearing aids in your, or the mics in your hearing aids, so that you don't hear so much background noise. Of all the options, it's probably the most discreet. It's more compact if you're using the neck loop. And again, it's not terribly expensive. It's under a couple $100 to put one of these together. Of course, you got to have T-coils to use it, but hopefully everybody has T-coils anyway for all the other benefits that offers. My experience with T-coils, by the way, is that if you order them at the same time you order the hearing aids, it doesn't increase the price. That could just be where I'm getting my hearing aids, but they're not expensive. Now, if you like, I can do a demonstration here using a speaker instead of a earphone. You have to turn this guy on. Keep the gain down because it's super sensitive. Plug in the earpiece.
Bluetooth ready to pair. Off mode.
There. Now, I don't know if you all can hear that. Can you hear it, Lauren? Yeah. I'm using just the microphone, the remote microphone. As you can tell, it's quite sensitive. I can hold it quite a ways away from my face and still hear it. So it does work particularly well. I've even used this. I've got it on minimum volume at the moment, but I've even used this during my presentations to different groups as a PA system. It works tremendously good.
Eric, we're getting a lot of squealing.
Yeah.
My mic is actually too close to the speaker. That's the problem. I'm going to switch off right now. There. Point is though, that the wireless works and doesn't cost a lot of money. Like I say, you break out equipment like this, I've lost the, there we go. You break out equipment like this, you might get some questions, particularly from paranoid types, lawyers, investment counselors, and the like, and politicians. They get nervous about being recorded, but that can be fun too. Yeah. Here we go. Just a quick story, and then I'll open it up to questions. I was talking about these online with hearing questions interest group on Facebook, and this one gal was real interested. I ended up sending her a list of components to do the last one that I talked about with the neck loop. Turns out she's a teacher, and her problem was that a lot of schools have systems for students, but not for teachers with hearing loss. And she was struggling to hear all of her kids a lot of the time. Plus, she had to move from room to room, so she couldn't use a stationary system. She needed something portable and mobile. Well, she got the components and put it together, which is quite simple. And she mounted the microphone on a pedestal in the middle of the room, and she was ecstatic. She said that using her T-coils, she could hear everything in the room. So she showed her principal, and he was so impressed. He drew the money from petty cash for her to pay for it. That made him ADA compliant. So he was happy and she was happy. But the bonus was, she said that her kids got to be a lot better behaved ever since the teach got ears on the back of her head. So she said that it turned out to be a great solution for her. Now, if anybody has any questions later on, or anybody wants a shopping list of components for any of this, drop me a line at emaxim3@gmail.com, and I'll send you back out a PDF of everything. Okay, we're open for questions. See here, stop sharing.
Does anybody have any questions? Just raise your hand. Fred, did you have to ask? You're going to ask something?
You gotta unmute, Fred.
There we go.
I used the pocket talker for many years before I got my cochlear implant, and I still use it occasionally. And for the cost of the unit, you can't beat it. It's unfortunate that more people don't realize the importance of a remote mic. Now, with my brand new cochlear implant, the mic is an accessory, and it's cordless, and it works as good, if not better, than the pocket talker. I still carry the pocket talker with me in the car or wherever I go just to have it. But a remote mic is by far one of the best programs that you can have if you have a hearing problem. Believe me. And it's small enough to carry in your pocket or wherever you go. And as Eric mentioned, in a restaurant or in the car, any place, it's unbeatable to have that remote mic.
You're dead right,
In
Fred.
fact, I use the remote mic. I use the remote mic when I'm on this Zoom thing. I have it sitting right there on my computer, and so I get enough volume.
Yeah.
Great.
I used to use a bog standard pocket talker like you're talking about, and it was a wonderful help. But after my wife realized how helpful it was, she's the one that got me the Roger Select device offered by Phonak. She liked it because she can pin it on her blouse when they're in the car, for instance, or the restaurant, and I can hear everything she says. Before it was a problem. Remember, the audiologist was giving us a sales pitch on this thing. And I said, Doc, I said, I'm sold on the capabilities, but where's the off switch? Any other questions? Fred's got another
One thing I might mention, Eric, a lot of problems are what I've had occasionally when I use the pocket talker and I would go in the store and so on. People are recording their conversation to try to report them for some reason or another. So I always tell them, no, I'm not trying to do anything. Whereas if you had the smaller remote, you can kind of hide it in your hand.
I know, even though I usually wear a neck loop when I'm using one of these devices, I carry a little earphone like this so I can plug it in and they can listen if they want to, get an idea of what I'm using it for.
Does anybody have any other questions for Eric? What we wanted to do was, go ahead, Eric.
That either means that nobody cares or I was very, very thorough. I'm not sure which.
What we can do now is what we really do at the live demo center. And that is we have guests that walk in the door. It's open to the public. We have no idea who's going to show up. Sometimes we have quite a crowd there. And what we do is we pair up each guest with one of our hosts, and we try to listen to what their particular hearing loss concern is. And it doesn't have to be related to what Eric or Lauren talked about, or it can be. So does anybody have any particular issues that between all of us here, we might be able to give some suggestions? Yes, Joe.
I don't know if this applies or not, but of course, we've been watching the television an awful lot these days. And with all the broadcasting and the programs, that's one thing. And you set your TV for a comfortable level, then on comes one of the shrill commercials. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, I cannot imagine that there's an assisted device out there that knows how to or can help you manage that. But that's a real problem. And when I was in practice, I would get complaints from my patients about that. And then once I was asked to give a talk, and I was asked to talk about that. So I did a little research. And you all remember some of you might remember the Magnatone, I think the Magnavox smart tone hearing aids from years ago that had a automatic volume control feature. And of course that went away. And what I learned was it went away because people bought the patent for it so that it couldn't be put on the air again. So it couldn't be used. So it couldn't be used to modify the output level of your television. So I guess that still remains a problem. If you recall, about 2 or 3 years ago, maybe it was, there was legislation that indicated that you could no longer, that the networks could no longer broadcast with that feature. And that lasted about 3 months. And then it went away. And it went into effect on January 1st. And life was great up until the end of March. And then it just disintegrated, you know, back to the old ways. I don't suppose there's any technology or device that we could use interceding between the television and your listening devices that anybody knows of to help with that.
A smart TV, Joe.
Well, I think I've got one, Al, but it's missing something. I don't think it went to that class.
Yeah, I like my TV connector because I've got a 1-button mute.
Well, sure, that's the answer. And then you're ordinarily distracted when the news comes back on and you miss the first part of it. But,
Yeah, I haven't heard of anything like that, Joe. Automatic level control for a, you know, for a device or for the TV.
yeah.
But you know, I'm wondering about the that patent that people bought. How many years ago was that?
Oh, it had expired, of course.
Yeah. So
And then somebody else came out with another one, and it just keeps going on and on. Every time one comes out, somebody snaps it up. And so it's no longer available. Now, I could be mistaken because it's been several years since I gave that little talk. But
yeah, I haven't looked, but I will.
yeah, it would be interesting to see if there was a way around this, because this is terribly annoying.
You know, the best solution is if the designers of those products end up with hearing loss, then I think we'll see something like that be introduced again.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I tend to,
just an observation.
Joe, I tend to hate commercials. So a lot of things I record, like even the news, I record it. And then I go and when I listen to it, I just fast scan all the commercials.
Oh, yeah. And I've heard about that before. And somebody made a comment. He said, I have so much trouble keeping up with everything. I've got to read this. I've got to read that. And now I've got to go and listen to my television. So he found it was hard to schedule that into his calendar. But that is a solution.
Well,
But it takes time to do that.
well, the beauty of it is that you listen to a half-an-hour news program in about 20 minutes.
Oh, yes, I would believe that. Yeah. Yeah. But anyhow, it's really tough.
Yeah, it is. It's a real problem.
That's why we like Netflix. Boy, you pick a series and go right through it. And
Particularly with the sound bars, because those sound bars are really efficient on picking up that loud noise of those commercials and blasting away at the whole room, you know?
yeah, okay. I was going to ask you about the sound bar.
Actually, I just read the TV during commercials, except that the thing I've noticed is that the amount of TV commercials that are not closed captioned, and, you know, I'm convinced that lawyers don't want to sell us anything and that car dealers don't want to sell us anything. But what's really got me bugged is hearing aid dealers who do not close caption their commercials. And there's a guy in Syracuse who has 6 branches, and about 6 months ago, his ads were not captioned, and I sent him a letter saying, "Who are your customers?" And I saw their ad last week; it was captioned.
For you.
I won, but there's an awful lot of people out there who are not captioning, and I wish the FCC would change the rules so that commercials are considered program material and have to be captioned.
The one that irritates me, Bruce, is the telemed users that don't caption.
Now, William Mattar's ads all of a sudden weren't captioned about 7 months ago, and I wrote him a letter. He called me the next day after he got the letter and said, "I'm paying those blankety blanks to caption them," and all the new ads have been captioned ever since then. But they were supposed. He understands us, and we had a long discussion about hearing loss and stuff. And he said, I know about this. They're supposed to be captioned. And he really got after his advertising agency. I'll tell you. And all of a sudden, the new ads, all his new ones, he used to have those, what I call the blue room commercials. Those are the ones that weren't. He fired those guys. He went to an agency. Yeah. So Hey, I won a couple, but I wrote to Mr. Huge and got nowhere.
It's interesting, given the amount of money they spend for airtime, because that's very expensive, that they are leaving part of the community that can't hear what the hell they're talking about. You would think they'd really want to get through to everybody and be hearing friendly, because they're just throwing away customers, potential customers, by not captioning.
I think what I think one of the issues is that they don't realize, because hearing loss is so invisible,
Yeah,
that they don't realize how widespread it is. And looking at some of these statistics that, Joe, I think I can refer to your statistics on this, and also one of the sources that you had mentioned. And I took those numbers and figured out that in Monroe County, in fact, I think you even say this in one of your documents, in Monroe County alone, where we have about 780,000 people, so 1 in 6, according to the National Institutes of Health, have a detectable hearing loss. That would be about 120 or 30,000 people. However, a lot of those people don't need help because they just have a very mild hearing loss and they can get by. And the other statistic was that only 20% of those 1 in 6 will do something about it, will seek help. The other 80% don't do anything. And correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but I think the best estimate I've seen is about half of that 80% actually could really use some help. They're more of the moderate, severe hearing loss people. The 20% who did something about it are the very severe and the profound hearing loss people. But anyway, in Monroe County alone, that's 50,000 people. Just in our county, 50,000 people who are not doing anything about their hearing loss, where they really need some help. So yeah, that is, and I think that's what we talked about in our meetings here recently, is how in heck do you reach those people?
That's a good, excuse me. I think that's a good point, Lauren. And, you even brought it to my mind in that you said it took 7 to 10 years to reach your action point, which is pretty common. The reason for that, of course, is because you can get by. But there's this marginal community, large marginal community out there who could use a little help. And I think the captioning thing is one of the biggest things that could be done for them, because they don't miss most of the message. They're missing parts of it. And so then that's what they struggle with. And of course, Art and I have talked about this in terms of open captioning at theaters and musicals and performances, because so many people struggle hearing the words, but yet they haven't reached their threshold for action for getting hearing aids. And it's only after they become quite inconvenienced that they're ready to move forward. That's not always the case, but it's a good thumb.
That's in fact why I'm so excited about that hearing check kiosk. I think people in that range, those marginals, could see how bad their hearing really is, and they might get off the dime and actually do something about it.
Oh,
And
that would be nice.
Yeah. I think it's the audiologist friend, actually.
I'm not an audiologist, but my experience with people is when they see the graph, they're shocked. I had a friend who called me up and he said he was out at the Veterans Administration and they gave him the graph. He never was tested before. And he said, I don't think this is very good. This thing dips so low. I just don't understand what's going on here. And I said, I think you better follow through and get those hearing aids,
On that subject, let me just digress. When you mentioned Veterans Affairs, I may have mentioned this to a couple of you, but my nephew from Milwaukee is just a few years younger than I am. He was in the Air Force and never had a problem with anything. But recently, well, he's almost 70 now. He called me one day. He said, he's been having some problems with his hearing. And I said, well, and he was asking me about some of these insurance programs like True Hearing and all that. And I said, look, why don't you just go to the VA? And the perception that people have, and he had as well, is that, the VA, they're no help. They won't help you at all. I said, they're not, they had problems years ago, but they're not the way they were anymore. They're quite good. So anyway, I said, it's a direct order. You go and you talk to them. He called me back 3 weeks later, and he was just ecstatic. He said, I'm getting a top of the line Paradise Phonak hearing aids from the VA for no cost. And I talked to one of our members today too, and about it because he has profound hearing loss. I said, have you gone to the VA? And he said, no, well, I went years ago and they said I wasn't missing a limb or anything, so there was nothing they could do for me. I also told him today, I said, this is a direct order. You call the VA and get a hearing test and see what they say, because you might find that you don't have to spend that $7,000 you're worried about. The VA will spend it for you. So, I mention this because it's something that's widely I think, is that the VA is not going to help me if I'm a vet. And we got to get that word out that you should go and try.
Yeah.
It's like this motivational speaker I saw once. I never thought much about him, but he did say one thing that stuck with me. And he said, so if you're looking for an answer for something you want, but you're afraid to say it or to ask for it, you should go and ask. He said, the worst that's going to happen is they'll say no, and you have no already. And I think that's a good point.
Yeah, just piggyback on that, Lauren. I know one vet who got, again, top of the line hearing aids, but they did talk to him about his lifestyle and the places he went. Hearing aids got equipped with T-coils, and they sponsored him for a remote mic.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're quite helpful.
Folks, we got between 3 and 4 minutes left. Does anybody else have anything they want to ask? By the way, the reason we're recording this is within a day or so, Eric will have it up where it'll be accessible through the chapter website. You can watch this plus all of our presentations this season are up accessible through that site. Fred, you had it? Yes, go ahead, Fred.
You're on mute, Fred.
Fred, I'm trying to remind you, you need to unmute.
Or just hold down the space bar if you're
Just
up.
say,
There you go.
there you go.
Got it, Fred.
You should be able to hear you now, Fred. Go ahead.
No, I was wondering with the Bluetooth, originally when I had something with the Bluetooth on it, there was always a delay between the person talking and what you were picking up. I was wondering if this has been corrected with some of the newer devices that were shown here. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's true, Fred. But like I said in my presentation, a lot of people advertise it, not so many actually have it. I went through 3 different combinations before I found one that the latency was imperceptible.
Well, you have to have both the receiver and the transmitter have to have low loss specification. But even so, I found too that if if I'm using a Bluetooth device listening to the TV directly, right, from the TV, and my wife is listening to the speakers, even with low latency Bluetooth, I get an echo. And that's only a 20 to 30 millisecond delay, as opposed to the old maybe 80-second delay before they introduced low latency. Now,
Yeah.
I've heard that Bluetooth is at 6.0. That's supposed to eliminate that. I don't know if that's correct, but I don't believe it until I hear it. You know.
Folks, Cindy's time may be up, and Cindy, appreciate your work. Thank you very much. If you need to leave, please go ahead, but I can keep connected here. It is 11 o'clock, and I was going to stop the recording, but I'll keep the Zoom session going.
Yeah, so that's a